All right, I'm going to put myself on mute now. The floor is now yours, Eudora. All right, take it away.
All good. Thank you. So hope you can see my screen, the presentation. All good? Yeah? Okay, brilliant. So thank you for the intro. First of all, my session is about sustaining SaaS success. So achieving cost efficiency in SaaS with scalability and resilience also going on. Before jumping into the topic, I'll give a quick intro about myself. Right, I'm Wijeratna. I'm a community builder and a leader from Colombo, Sri Lanka. I have close to 14 years experience in software development and 7+ years mainly working with AWS solution architecturing. And as I mentioned, I'm coming from a small island called Sri Lanka. I'm not sure you all know about the island. I'm from that small island in the Indian Ocean. Yeah. So let's move on. Now, this particular session is all about some of the experience I gained related to building a SaaS product, B2B SaaS product from ground up, right? So please give a thumbs up if you have worked or were involved in developing a SaaS product with AWS. Can you all give me a thumbs up, please? Brilliant. I can see few. Nice, nice. So here, Valaris is SaaS B2B customer data platform, and it is 100% running in AWS. Yeah, and mainly, as I mentioned, all the experience I gained or the tips I'm going to share with you today is related to Valaris, and those are proven solutions and proven let's say experiences, right? So before jumping into that topic or those specific areas, I just want to give you a small foundation about multi-tenancy, right? And different deployment models in SaaS. So have you all come across, I know a few gave me a thumbs up related to SaaS in AWS. Anyone worked in, again, please, I want to be interactive. Just give me a thumbs up if you have worked on a multi-tenant environment or know the concept, what is multi-tenancy and a tenant. Yep. Is there? Okay. Few are not. So that's fine, right? So I'll start with that foundation, right? So what is multi-tenancy? Multi-tenancy is an architectural pattern in which a single instance of software application serves for multiple customers. And each of these customers we call as a tenant. So look at the two terms, multi-tenancy and the tenant. One single platform catering for multiple customers, and each of these customers we call them as tenant. So if I give you example on Valaris, as I mentioned, it was a B2B SaaS platform, right? So our platform is actually utilized by businesses, not individual end users. So each of these business we call them as a tenant, right? So we have Valaris, and this Valaris is spread across multiple customers. Each of these customers we call a tenant. So that's the very basic. Now, when I was planning or started developing Valaris from the very beginning with my team, I was also new to multi-tenancy. So the first problem I wanted to solve was how to deploy a multi-tenancy application, especially in an AWS infrastructure. What do you all think? We mainly came across three different models where we can deploy a multi-tenancy application. You have to be thoroughly go through this diagram. There are three. Look at the one on the left, silo model. I'll go through one by one. Silo model means, as you can see in the diagram itself, each and every tenant, which means, let's say for our example, each and every customer is getting a dedicated application infrastructure or all the things related to the application they are going to use, the SaaS application they are going to use, will have dedicated infrastructure and resources. That is called siloed model. Example, if you have like 1,000 customers, you would have 1,000 duplicated infrastructure running for each and every tenant you have. What do you all think? It's going to be a nightmare, right? I heard a few of them, a few of the joinees are actually from the operations engineering side. So going for a silo going to be a huge nightmare for all of you, right? It's going to be very difficult. So that is silo for you. Then you have the total opposite side of it, which is the pool model. Silo, dedicated resources. Pool. What do you mean by pool? Pool, as you can see in the diagram, which is in the right hand side, it is like all the resources are shared across your tenants. Application tier, database tier, infrastructure, everything is shared. So it's very easy to maintain, right? Very easy to maintain. Cost-wise, it's very efficient. So all the advantages are there. But can we always go with the pool model rather than the silo if you're going for a SaaS deploy? Most of the time, no. Even in Belarus, we can't actually go for a pool model. Why? There are some compliance requirements coming in when it comes to developing a SaaS or a application, right? Especially think about the data aspect. Now, in the pool model, all the data related to your all the customers or the tenants are still being shared in a single RDS instance. So in our context, as B2B Belarus, which is a customer data platform, the compliance requirement from our customers mainly, hey, we can't share, we can't have everything in a single database instance and like using a partition data tables. No, that cannot be done. So to overcome these challenges in silo and the pool model, there is a middle path, which is called the bridge model. The middle diagram you can see, it's a combination of silo and pool. Based on your use case, based on your application use case, you would be able to design, let's say, these services, I will be deploying them as siloed way, right? But these services, I don't, so basically in the use case like compliance requirements, I would be able to share the data. So I'll be doing a pool model on that. Now, in this diagram, you can see RDS instance, the application tier is actually shared. But the data store, RDS, is actually uh, separated virtual by schema. So I hope you worked with RDS before, especially Postgres RDS, right? So Postgres RDS have this very nice feature, or in the sense like this capability where you can separately have schemas dedicated for each and every tenant based on your use case, right? So in the bridge model, that was the main advantage you can see. You can go for silo for certain services, pool for certain services, but end of the day, you are ensuring the compliance requirements are met or the security requirements are met in your platform. Are you all clear on these three models? So we went through this very thoroughly at the very beginning. If you are developing a SaaS platform, multi-tenancy SaaS platform, the first thing you have to decide which model I'm going to proceed in the deployment aspect. So in Belarus, we need the compliance and we can't afford to have a silo for sure with the resources and all the operational cost which will occur with the silo. We went with the bridge model, right? So that's pretty much the basic foundation I want to lay before jumping into the real topic. Hope you all are clear on this. Yeah, brilliant. So let's move on. Now, Velaris is so the examples I'm going to give you through Velaris, right? So it was a startup, started back on 2022, right? This particular line chart, look at this line chart. It's time versus multiple units. The three lines are actually having these three particular the key impacts I'm going to discuss today, which is the cost, growth, and the resilience. So in any startup journey, now in our context as well, cost, the infrastructure cost, the employee, or all other expenses at the very beginning is high, right? Because you don't have any customers at the very beginning of your startup journey. So the cost is high. You can see in the diagram. Cost is high. Growth is low, which is you are not bringing in any customers at the very start of your startup journey. So it is cost is high, growth is low at the very beginning. But look at the resilience line. Resilience line is regardless of the cost and the growth, with the time, it keeps improving, right? Keep improving. But after a certain time, let's say in your startup journey, you would be able to ensure cost is low, growth is high, which means you're actually profiting, right? Your revenue is good, your cost is low in the infrastructure and all other expenses. That's brilliant. You can see that in the diagram itself. There's a fluctuation, but resilience is keep going. The ideal state, as a VP of engineering right now at Velaris, playing the CTO role, the ideal state for any business is like cost going down, growth going up, right? And simultaneously, in parallel, resilience is also keep improving, right? That's the ideal state. To be honest, we are not in that state as of now. Still, yeah, we are trying our level best to get the cost down, keep the growth up, but we are ensuring resilience is going crazily up as well. So hope you all clear. Now I'll be explaining in the upcoming slides how we were able to ensure we like improve the growth, reduce the cost, and simultaneously improve the resilience as well. Any questions up until now, feel free to post that in the chat as well. So the growth, the scalability, right? So it's all about business growth, right? Now, for our application, B2B SaaS platform, we bring in more and more customers or tenants into our platform, which end of the day means increase in the usage of your SaaS product. So we were going in the bridge model. So usage is high. What are the key areas we actually focused on? At the very beginning in our journey, we didn't thought about, okay, let's say scaling policies, using different services and all. But what I learned from this 2 to 3 years is infrastructure scalability plays a major role when it comes to cost-effective, resilient scalability in your SaaS product. So we have a microservices-based architecture, right? We are using ECS for that, certain services. And some of the services, we are using Lambda functions, serverless. And for some, Fargate as well, right? So one key thing we noticed was rather than thinking we are always going for containerized ECS model, let's make sure within our platform, based on the use case, select the correct service in AWS. I know Paul was able to share the experience he gained with step functions. Yes, we are also using step function. For what? We are using it for ETLs, right, in our platform. So just think, there are so many services. Example, Airflow, right? Or we can use Glue, Athena, all of these as well. But rather than going for those, for basic ETLs, we are using the step functions. The real benefit would be, yes, it's scalable, right? Using step functions with Lambda functions and all, but it gives us a real good cost efficiency. So that's major thing to know, right? So make sure you identify with the correct use case. For that use case, ensure you are using the correct service or the appropriate service in AWS. And very recently, we figure out, yes, we configure the auto scaling policies and all in our platform, right? But when we thought, like when we analyze our scaling policies and all, we notice, are we using the correct matrices to do the scaling? Yes, CPU was there, memory was there, but is it applicable for all the services you have in your the large infrastructure you have? Actually, no, right? So what we did was we analyzed furthermore and ensured, okay, for these particular services, we are going for CPU and memory-based scaling. And there were some certain scenarios, certain services which we identified. This is ideal for the schedule-based scaling. So remember that as well. That's a very good learning we got, right? Rather than sticking into a one type of metrics to do the scaling, we ensured we analyze each and every service and apply the correct service policy or the scaling policy, sorry, for that particular application feature. So hope you are clear on the infrastructure scalability aspect as well. It's really important to know. Then the operational scalability, right? So now in Belarus, 1 year ago, right, to onboard a new tenant, when there's a new customer comes into our platform, everyone is happy, right? New customer, a startup, we are celebrating. But apparently, it took 2 to 3 days to onboard a customer to our platform with providing the necessary infrastructure, creating the DNS records, and all these things, all the nitty-gritties. We took 2 to 3 days because that process was manual and we required multiple employees or teams to do their part by their own to ensure everything is in place to onboard the new customer. So that was very time consuming, right? 2 to 3 days just to onboard a customer, right? So in a startup journey, I actually went across multiple YouTube videos provided by AWS and learned that yes, in a certain state, you definitely need to automate the onboarding process, right? Rather than going for manual, go for the automation process. At the very beginning, we were fine because we were getting a customer once in every month, right? But after a certain period of time, when your product is really shaping up, there might be a situation you are bringing customers every week, right? Multiple. So if we were going with the manual, it's not going to work at all. So what we did was myself and my DevOps engineering team, we thought of it, we need to automate, we can't do this going on. So because the business growth is happening, we need to ensure we onboard the customers fast as possible. So we automated yet again step functions and Lambda, right? Simple as that. How do you think, right? How much time now actually it takes to onboard a customer through automation? Any guesses? Feel free to voice out if possible.
Few
Any
hours.
guesses? Few hours. Brilliant. To be honest, now it's a matter of sending a Slack message through the specific channel saying, hey, onboard this ex customer. Within less than 30 minutes, right? Now we were able to onboard a customer. So this is really important to know. You might be in your you might think, okay, this is not required in your SaaS journey or in your, let's say, other applications as well. Moving away from manual to automation will give a huge benefit, and we are enjoying that right now. Right. So a very important experience I wanted to share with you all. So if you are into your SaaS journey, make sure you invest time on automating the onboarding process as much as possible, as soon as possible. SaaS journey. Okay, clear? Brilliant. Right. The third point, microservices versus asynchronous processing. Now, this is yet again is I would say was a game changer for Velas. Why? Some of the microservices were actually we in any use case, right? Any application, you might have certain services where you need to give synchronous, or you have to have synchronous processing, right? Real time, you have to give the update to the end user. But you need to identify, right? especially if there are any services or any features that you can do or process your data asynchronously, which is sending the messages to a, in our case, we are sending those to SQS, FIFO queues, and processing them in the background rather than doing or like processing them real time, right? So what was the real benefit we wrote from this? Yeah, think about, you don't have to scale your platform rapidly based on the number of requests coming in, right? The required processing will happen synchronously. That will flow to the end user without any issues. But certain processes, yes, you can do it in the background. We are doing it very nicely within the SLAs with very low resource utilization. So please make sure you identify the asynchronous processing use cases and implement them as asynchronous processing using the services AWS is providing, right? So for that even, we also have the scaling policies enabled, dynamic scaling. Based on the number of messages we have in the queue, we scale our listeners accordingly. So this helped us a lot to ensure we have a business growth with very good, I would say, very efficient and good cost efficiency, right? Along with the resilience. Right. Any questions or all clear, right? Up until now? Brilliant. Thank you. So I'll move into the next one, the resilience part. I know AWS is providing, hey, we have uptime of 99.999 something, right? Can we do the same in our SaaS platform? Why this is really important? I mentioned at the very beginning, SaaS means single application serving for multiple customers, correct? Single app, multiple customers. Think about a scenario, your platform is down for a couple of hours, SaaS platform. So all the customers who are using your platform will be impacted, which means they will say, hey, we are moving out from your platform. Simple as that. Right? So to ensure your platform is up all the time and it is resilient, or ensuring all the security entities, all the performance requirements, everything is in good shape, you have to have that proper observability, proper, I would say, services running in and ensuring you are giving uptime for your customers throughout. Now, I'll tell you one certain thing we did very recently, actually. We were able to implement the availability dashboards for our SaaS platform. Anyone here who has already implemented availability dashboards for your SaaS platform or your platform at least, forget about SaaS, for your platform? Yeah. Please give a thumbs up. Okay, that's fine, right? But what we did was, this was not there, to be honest. This was not there from like I would say 1 year ago. But yet again, when we were like reading and going through articles and all, how to improve our resilience of our platform, we figure out, yes, using CloudWatch dashboards and using a very simple algorithm for each and every microservice you have, you can develop this availability dashboards. So basically, in this screenshot, what I'm sharing with you all is, okay, there are some certain microservices I'm monitoring, and I'm ensuring the availability of those microservices are more than 99.99. Now, for example, in the diagram, BFF, backend for front end, right? That microservice is having 99.5. Yeah, then definitely there will be a alarm triggered in our application there, right? In the Slack notification, there will be a notification coming. Then we can dig deep and analyze whether it's a valid one or not, right? So This one, if you haven't implemented it, please make sure try this out because this will help you to detect things before things go wrong. Before customer comes and complain, hey, application is slow, application is giving me errors, right? Rather than customer complaining that to you would be able to monitor this and quickly jump in and do the necessary changes to ensure your application is serving your customers without any issues. So really important, there are enough tutorials or steps they are in the YouTube or in the AWS community as well. Follow them and try to implement the availability dashboard. This is helping us a lot rather than the without it, we are using it and we are detecting things faster than previous. So that's another input I have to give you on the resilience aspect. So apart from those, other things are very common for the resilience. Alarms. I know anyone who's using AWS or deploying any application, you are configuring alarms, right? That's a common thing. And the multi-AZ deployment, if one availability zone goes down, you have the other availability zone available to cater the request coming in for your platform. And again, for the resilience, asynchronous processing will definitely help because it's going hand in hand with the API throttling. Now, in a SaaS world, there's a concept called noisy neighbors, right? What do you mean by noisy neighbors? So we are sharing all the infrastructure, right? So if there's one particular tenant or a customer who's actively using your APIs, for example, you are exposing APIs. Velaris is exposing APIs, public APIs. And particular customer is using those APIs very rapidly. Since we are using a shared infrastructure, all other tenants who will be using our platform will have impact, correct? Because infrastructure is shared. So to avoid that, you should definitely implement API throttling in the API gateway level, right? So have some SLAs discussions based on your like the contracts with your customers, have tiering enabled and ensure provide appropriate thresholds for API consumption. That is really important after a certain stage of your SaaS journey. You might not be able want to like do these things at the very beginning because early customers you can give everything, but after a certain period of time, these are really important to do. So all of these will ensure your platform is highly resilient, right? So I hope you got something out of from the resilience aspect as well, the availability dashboards, throttling, the noise neighbor concept, and the alarms and multi-AZ. Those are very common things to be honest, right? So next one, I talk about the growth, the scalability. I talk about the resilience in the platform, how we were able to improve that using very small changes. And the last part is the cost, the cost optimizations. In a startup, this is the most important thing, right? My CEO, my COO always ask, hey, can you reduce the cost, infrastructure cost? Is there any other opportunities to do? Yeah. Any options you can try it out? Yes. Right? So always you have all these tools like Cost Explorer, do the analysis, right? And you have, let's say, savings plans, and you can get the AWS support as well to analyze the cost efficiencies and all. They will give you, and we are actually doing it as well as we are getting direct support from the AWS account managers and ensuring we are optimizing our cost in the infrastructure, right? I'm not going to discuss about those things because those are very common, right? So the way we thought of in a SaaS world, the way we are actually focusing on optimizing the cost is something different, which I'm going to explain now. How? Economies of scale, right? So yet again, this was taken, how I was able to implement this, basically from a session conducted by the reinvent, I can't remember the speaker there, but a session related to SaaS, right, in the last reinvent. So in that, which was discussed was, you need to know how your platform is utilized by your customers, number one, right? And how the services are being utilized through different customers or different tenants. How to do that? So in our architecture, in a very high level, I mentioned we have the BFF layer. You have the web app at the very top, right? In between the microservices and the web app, you have the BFF layer, the mediator or the middle layer. So any request coming in to our backend services actually going through the BFF layer to identify which tenant is sending the request for which service and what is the exact HTTP method this particular request is actually triggered actually. We want to capture that at the very root level. What we did was in the BFF layer, we introduced a log pattern. And that log pattern was able to help us to capture, okay, the usage patterns using CloudWatch Log Insights. So Log Insights played a major role there, and that helped us a lot to capture how the application being utilized, the time being utilized, the peak hours, non-peak hours, all of these things we were able to capture, right? So this is another example from the same data we captured during that logs, right? The log in the BFF. We were able to capture, okay, these are the customers who are sending most of the requests. So we would be able to identify who is the blue whale, who is actually putting a lot of data or a lot of requests to our platform in the web app. What are the requests? Everything. Now, what would be the output from this data set? What are the features these particular customers are using heavily? All of these things we were able to capture by that particular log stream from the root level. The benefit of this was actually, now in the SaaS world, right, you would be able to, there's a subscription model, correct? For any SaaS platform that might be monthly usage, user-wise, number of user-wise usage, right? And might be, let's say, annual contracts, likewise. Now, let's say, for example, when you capture these usage patterns of your tenants, you know how the tenant is actually utilizing your platform in and out. Then, when you are negotiating with the customer in the upcoming contract renewal, right, you would be able to say, hey, I can clearly see you are using our platform end to end without like any hiccups, any complaints, and you are using it really well. You can see with the data set as well, which we have, right? So we would like to improve or increase your contract from next year. So now cost of rather than the cost optimization, we are trying to improve our revenue from these particular stats we have. Similarly, another thing we actually did was, now we were able to identify these features are not being utilized. Then one of the customers planning to move away from our platform. Example, the word we are using is churn. That customer wants to churn from our platform, right? Then we were able to tell, hey, we can see we have given you all the features of our platform to you, and this is the contract value we have given for the last year, right? Since you are not using these features, we are going to disable them and we are going to give you a reduced contract from next year onwards. So, end of the day, we are disabling some of the features, which means we are helping to reduce the infrastructure cost associated to the entire platform, and we will be able to retain the customer as well with that simple data capturing process we did at the very root level, right? So really important to do that in a certain stage. We have done it, and it is helping us a lot to improve our overall growth and to reduce the cost with feature flags coming into play for different customers, right? So other things are very common: tenant tiering for any SaaS platform, tuning the infrastructure. Yes, you have to do it very regularly. So I wanted to just to ensure, give that specific use case we did and how it was actually help us to reduce the cost, and while reducing the cost of the platform itself, improving the business growth as well. Any questions up until now? Yes, go ahead.
I did have a question. I have a question and a comment, maybe. So my first question, I actually dropped it in the chat. So I too have actually built uh SaaS platform as well. We're actually still building one of our SaaS platforms here at Comcast. Did you all ever consider at any point for multi-tenancy, tenant isolation at the VPC layer? Like, let's say you have customers that are public sector as well as like commercial customers as well, and they want like additional isolation. Is that something that you all ever considered for your particular SaaS platform?
Good question. To be honest, with our domain, we haven't got that requirement as of now,
Gotcha.
right? We should be able, but I would say now let's think about a regional requirement,
Yeah.
right? So there might be a customer who will come and say, right now our infrastructure in this, let's say, X region in AWS, right? So for compliance requirement, let's say GDPR, right, SOC 2 or something, or the data compliance requirement, if all the data should be there in a US region rather than in a EU region. In that context, we definitely, right, we definitely have to have another identical application running in that particular region or the VPC, right? Hope I answered your question, but up until now, there isn't such requirement came in, to be honest.
No, I think that's definitely a really good response. A lot of I want to say isolation requirements are definitely going to be driven by the customers
Mm.
themselves. Um, So that was just my first question. My second question, um, when you talk about resilience, do you all, outside of some of like I just jotted down a few things like async processing, API throttling, for cases in which there is like some sort of potential threat on the horizon, do you all also have a practice of doing anything with chaos engineering from a resilience standpoint as well, like just doing like true end-to-end disaster recovery testing? Like, is that something that your customers, have requested up until this point, or is that just a normal practice, as part of your SaaS platform?
Yeah, good question yet again, right? So now for Velaris, we need to have all the compliances ready, right? The certifications. For example, ISO 2007, right? SOC 2, GDPR, right? For all of these, there are certain things we have to follow for sure. For example, third-party pen testing. So there, we ensured, okay, we give a like a proper, let's say, cyber attack will come in and they will identify, okay, what are the vulnerabilities and all. That's a must for us. So we are doing it yearly, right? And the internal audit is also happening. So from those, we are always ensuring annually we are having these disaster recovery plans and we have tested them, right? So those things are actually covered throughout our platform annually for your question. Yeah. Hope I
Awesome.
gave you the answer.
Yeah,
Okay.
awesome. Awesome. No, fantastic response. Those are definitely all of the questions that I have. I guess we can open the floor to anyone else. This was a fantastic session. Fantastic session.
Thank you. Thank you. So before I wrap up, right, this is the last slide that I have in my slide deck, right? So the key takeaways would be, as you can see, multi-tenancy will definitely bring you new dimension when you have to think about the resilience scaling aspect, right? You can't have it like you can't think as it is like a normal bespoke like a software application. And the second point is scalability, resilience, and cost efficiency all work hand in hand. You saw that, right? If I go for a scalability option, I always have to think about the cost efficiency because it's a SaaS product and it's a startup. Regardless of startup, you have to think on those aspects for sure because it's really important. Last piece, the third one is the growth is mix of business and technical growth, right? So business will come up with a lot of things to you, but always think you have the technical goals also bound in with the business aspect as well. So those are the three takeaways I want to share with you all. Before wrap up, this is a very common thing I'm always sharing. Achieving a perfect architecture is challenging, right? So focus on continuously improving while we are doing it every day and we are ensuring we are improving our platform in all aspects, scalability, resilience, and cost efficiency. Thank you very much. Feel free to ask any questions with the interest of time. Feel free to connect with me through LinkedIn uh, using the QR code. And I have actually shared one very interesting session in YouTube as well. That's in the the Cloud Architects Notebook YouTube channel. Feel free to join there and take a look on that as well. That's a real world case study, again related to LRS. Thank you. Any questions?
This is awesome. Thank you so, so much. We definitely appreciate you coming out to talk about sustaining uh, cloud resiliency and success. This was definitely a really, really great session. So, looking forward to any future talks that you may have as well. If no one else has any additional questions, then I will go ahead and stop the recording at this time. But thank you so much again, Yudara. We definitely appreciate you coming out to
Thank
talk.
you. Have a good day. Thank you.
Yes.